Dude, imagine this. You're told to give up the one thing you love more than anything in the world, not for money, not for power, not even because it makes sense, just because this force, this higher calling tells you to, like, think about that level of trust, that level of mental toughness. That's not normal. That's warrior level mindset. And this one guy, long before podcasts and protein shakes, he did it. He stared down his own emotions, his attachments, and said, okay, if this is what I'm supposed to do, I'll do it. And what happened next? It's the craziest twist. This isn't just an old story, man. This is a lesson in what real strength looks like. Imagine for a second that you've built your entire life around something you love. Maybe it's your kid, your partner, your dream, your creation. Whatever it is, it's the core of your soul. You've sacrificed for it, you've protected it, nurtured it, poured your time and blood into it, and now, out of nowhere, you're asked to give it up. Not in theory, not symbolically, but for real. Like, literally walk away or even destroy the one thing that makes your heart beat. That's the test. And it's not about loss, it's about loyalty. See, most people are loyal until it costs them something. Everyone talks about being committed, being dedicated, being real, until the bill shows up, until they're standing at the edge of a cliff with nothing but trust in something they can't even see. This guy from way back, long before podcasts and Instagram stories, faced that exact cliff. He wasn't given a warning or a full explanation. He was just told, give it up, prove your loyalty, no contract, no reward, no applause, just faith. Now think about that mindset. What kind of inner strength does it take to say yes to that? We live in a time where we hesitate over the smallest inconveniences. Should I delete this app? Should I skip the gym today? Should I tell the truth or just avoid conflict? And yet this man was asked to hand over what he loved most purely because it was the right thing to do. You ever had to break up with someone because staying would mean betraying yourself? Or walk away from a job that paid well but killed your soul a little more every day? That's the modern version of the same test. The real question isn't, can you let go? The real question is, who are you loyal to when everything's on the line? Your comfort, your emotions, your timeline, or your higher purpose, your growth, your soul. Loyalty gets tested in silence. No one's watching, no one's cheering. It's 2 a.m. and your mind is racing, your heart is pounding, and your gut says, this is the moment. Prove who you are. And let's be real, most people fold. They run back to safety. They justify, rationalize, numb out, pretend they didn't hear the calling. But the few who don't, those are the ones who rewrite everything. Because loyalty isn't about staying when it's easy. It's about standing firm when your hands are shaking and your chest is heavy. It's that split second where you say, I know this hurts, but I'm not backing down. And if you can do that even once, it changes you. It rewires your brain. It sharpens your soul. You stop playing small. This guy didn't need proof. He didn't ask for guarantees. He didn't post about it or call for help. He just walked forward, trembling but focused, ready to lose everything if that's what it took. And that kind of loyalty, that's not weakness. That's the highest form of strength. It's the kind of courage that echoes through generations. And the wildest part, most people are never even aware when they're facing that test. They think it's just another hard day, another tough call, another quiet moment of pain. But in reality, it's everything. It's the defining moment that separates the ones who say they're committed from the ones who live it without needing to say a word. Letting go of control is one of the hardest things a human being can ever do. Because control gives us comfort, control gives us certainty, control makes us feel like we're safe. We plan our days, we check our phones constantly, we chase stability like it's the Holy Grail, and then life comes in, completely uninvited, and says, nope, you're not in charge here. And that's when the real test begins, because in that moment, you're faced with the one thing that terrifies people more than failure or surrender. Not giving up, surrendering. Those are two very different things. Giving up is quitting because it's hard. Surrender is knowing you've done everything in your power. And now it's time to trust the unknown. That takes guts. Real, deep, primal guts. Look around you. People are addicted to the illusion of control. They overthink every move. They worry about tomorrow while destroying today. They try to manipulate outcomes, force results, script every detail of their future like life is a movie, and they're the director. But here's the twist. Life doesn't care about your script. And sometimes, when your back's against the wall and everything feels like it's slipping, That's exactly when something bigger steps in, something you can't explain, something you can only feel. It's terrifying, it's liberating, and it's exactly where transformation begins. You ever lose a job you thought you'd have forever? Get rejected from something you gave your whole heart to? Feel like the world is pulling the rug out from under you for no reason at all? That's the universe saying, let go, stop gripping, stop pretending you're in charge of everything. And the crazy part, the moment you stop fighting it, everything starts shifting. Opportunities show up. Peace sneaks in. And suddenly, you realize you weren't losing control. You were losing the illusion of it. Think about a surfer for a second. They're not trying to control the wave. They're not yelling at the ocean to behave. They're reading the wave, trusting their skill, flowing with what's coming instead of bracing against it. That's what letting go of control feels like. It's learning to ride the chaos instead of drowning in it. It's trusting that even if you can't see the whole map, the next step will still appear when you need it. Most people never get there. They're too busy trying to make the world bend to their plan. But some very few step into the fire of uncertainty with open hands and a quiet mind. They don't always know what's coming, but they know who they are, and that makes all the difference. Because the truth is, control is just fear in a mask. We try to control because we're scared of loss, scared of pain, scared of the unknown. But when you let go, when you surrender to something beyond yourself, you stop reacting out of fear and start responding with purpose. You stop gripping and you start growing. That's where the shift happens. Not in the chaos, but in your decision to trust that even the chaos has meaning. So next time life throws you into a storm and everything feels uncertain, don't fight it. Breathe, let go. There's a kind of freedom on the other side of control that you'll never experience if you keep playing it safe. And once you taste it, you'll never go back. A father's paradox is one of the most heart-wrenching realities a human can face. Think about it. Being given the very thing you love most in this world, watching it grow, protecting it with every breath you take, only to one day be asked to put it on the line, to let it go, to risk it all, not because you want to, not because you're ready, but because a deeper purpose calls you to. This isn't some fictional movie script. This is the kind of pain that lives in the bones of every parent, every mentor, every creator who's ever had to choose between their heart and their higher path. Imagine raising your child, holding their hand through every stumble, wiping away tears, standing in the shadows, cheering them on. They are your everything, your reason, your fire. And now you're being asked to sacrifice it, not because they did something wrong, not because you don't love them, but because you're being tested on whether your commitment to a higher purpose outweighs your emotional attachment. That's not just a hard choice, it's a war between soul and flesh. In real life, this paradox shows up in 1,000 different ways. Maybe it's the entrepreneur who spends years building a business from scratch, watching it become a living extension of their identity, and then suddenly the market crashes, a new opportunity comes, or their gut tells them, it's time to let this go. Walking away feels like betrayal, it feels like failure, but deep down, they know it's the right move. Or it's the father who raised his son to be strong, and now that son wants to move across the world to chase a dream. Every cell in that father's body wants to say, stay. But love that clings isn't love, it's control. And real love, the highest kind, is the one that lets go when holding on would mean holding them back. This paradox is brutal. It doesn't give you easy answers. It doesn't care about comfort. It only cares about who you become when everything you love is placed on the altar of purpose. Do you fold? Do you fight fate? Or do you rise, trembling and terrified, but still willing to walk forward? You ever tried to do the right thing knowing it might break your heart, like walking away from someone toxic even though you still love them, or turning down an opportunity because it would cost you your values? That's the same paradox. It's the moment where the easy path screams your name, but the higher path whispers, prove you're ready. And that whisper, it's the voice that builds legends, because when you love something deeply, you don't want to let it go. But sometimes the greatest act of love is surrender. It's trusting that if it's meant to stay, it will. And if it's meant to go, it will return in a new form, stronger, wiser, more aligned with your purpose. People think strength is about holding on, but real strength is knowing when to release, when to look your fear in the eye and say, I'll let go, even if it rips me apart, because my purpose demands it. But the father in this story didn't make a logical decision. He made a soul decision, and that's what makes it powerful. It wasn't about being fearless, it was about being faithful. And sometimes the greatest victories don't look like triumphs. They look like silence, like a single tear on the cheek of someone who just chose purpose over possession. That's what makes it unforgettable. That's what makes it eternal. The moment of action is where everything gets real. It's the place where talk ends and truth begins. You can say all the right things, believe all the right ideas, read every book on discipline and growth. But when the moment shows up, when it's just you, your decision, and the weight of what comes next, none of that matters unless you move. People think transformation happens in thinking. No, man, it happens in doing. In the terrifying, quiet seconds where your next breath could change your entire life. It's easy to say you do the hard thing. It's easy to post quotes, to talk about being brave, to imagine what you'd do if the test ever came. But when it's right in front of you, when you're standing at the edge of everything you've ever known, the question is simple: do you take the step? Or do you turn back? This guy didn't just sit and meditate on his test. He got up, packed his stuff, walked toward the hardest decision he'd ever face, and acted like it was already decided. That's a level of commitment most people never taste. He didn't cry about how unfair it was. He didn't wait for a sign to make it easier. He just moved, step after step, closer to something that didn't make logical sense, but felt deeply necessary. And in those footsteps, there's a lesson for all of us. Think about the times in your own life where you've hesitated. Maybe it was calling someone to apologize when your pride screamed not to. Maybe it was leaving a relationship that felt safe but was slowly suffocating your spirit. Maybe it was quitting a job that gave you stability but stole your fire. Whatever it was, you stood there in the moment of action and felt the storm rise inside, your heart pounding, your mind racing, your hands sweating, everything in you screaming for comfort, for a way out, for one more day to think, and deep down something else whispered, move now. But most people don't. They flinch. They delay, they rationalize, they tell themselves it's not the right time, but the truth is there's never a perfect time. There's just now. There's just that raw, vulnerable, honest second where you either become the person you talk about or you don't. Action doesn't wait for you to be ready. It's not polite. It doesn't care how scared you are. It knocks once, and then it moves on. And the ones who listen, the ones who act even with fear crawling through their bones, those are the ones who unlock a version of themselves they didn't even know existed. Because courage doesn't mean you're not scared. It means you're scared and you still move. That's what makes it powerful. That's what makes it real. And when you finally move, when you take that leap, make that call, walk into the unknown with your chest out and your soul on fire, you change. Not because the result is guaranteed. Not because it'll all work out. But because you proved something to yourself. You proved that fear doesn't own you. Doubt doesn't define you. Hesitation doesn't control you. And that proof, that's where freedom begins. That's where everything shifts, and no one can take that away from you. The twist that changes everything is always the part nobody sees coming. It's that exact moment when life flips the script and shows you that what you thought was the end was actually the test. You think you're about to lose it all. You brace for the worst. Your breath is shallow, your hands are trembling, and your soul is preparing to walk through fire. But then, just when the pain reaches its peak, just when your knees are buckling from the weight of sacrifice, everything shifts. And it's not because you pulled back. It's not because you asked for rescue. It's because you proved something in that silence, something only the universe or whatever force is watching could see. This is the plot twist that separates belief from conviction. Most people live their lives playing chess with the universe, trying to plan moves, outthink fate, manipulate outcomes. They're waiting for signs, bargaining, holding on to their terms. But life doesn't play chess. Life plays poker. It deals cards you didn't expect, watches how you react, and then throws in the twist, not to punish you, but to reveal who you are when the chips are down. Picture this: you're standing at the edge, fully ready to go through with something that breaks your heart. Not for attention, not for some temporary reward, but because you believe it's what's right. You've made peace with the pain, you've accepted the cost, and you still move forward. That's rare, that's sacred, that's powerful. And sometimes that's all the universe needed to see. Think about moments in your life where you were about to give something up. Maybe you were ready to walk away from a dream because it hurt too much to keep chasing it. Maybe you were about to confess something heavy, something that could destroy everything you built. Maybe you were prepared to let someone go even though you loved them with every fiber of your being. And then in that exact moment of surrender, something shifted. A door opened, a solution appeared, someone called, an opportunity came. Not because you gave up, but because you were willing to go all the way. The twist isn't about escape, it's about revelation. It's that moment where life says, I just needed to see if you were for real. Because anyone can pretend, anyone can talk big, but not everyone can face the fire and still walk forward. And those who do, they don't just survive, they transform, they evolve, they enter a new space where trust replaces control, where courage replaces comfort. This guy in the ancient story was ready to make the ultimate move. He didn't hesitate, he didn't ask for a way out. He raised his hand, knowing what it meant. And that's when everything turned, not before. Not halfway, at the exact point of no return, because the test was never about the outcome, it was always about the intent. The twist wasn't a relief, it was a reward for unshakable integrity. And that's the part we forget. The universe doesn't want your sacrifice, it wants your willingness, your heart. You're all in commitment even when the ending is unknown. Real life is full of these moments. The job interview you think went horribly and suddenly they call you back. The love you let go of, and months later they return transformed. The passion project you were about to abandon that suddenly explodes. It's not magic. It's alignment. It's timing. It's the twist that shows up for those who don't flinch in the dark, who keep walking even when their whole body screams to turn around. Because when the twist comes, it rewrites everything, not because you forced it, but because you earned it. What it really means to sacrifice is something most people will never fully understand because we've watered the word down. We throw it around like it's trendy. We say things like, I sacrificed my weekend, or I sacrificed carbs for this diet. But come on, that's not sacrifice. That's just discomfort. Real sacrifice. It cuts deep. It doesn't just ask for your time or energy. It demands your heart. It demands the thing you love most. It's looking at what you cherish, your dream, your family, your future, and knowing that to honor something bigger, you might have to let it go, not temporarily, not for a few weeks, maybe forever, and doing it anyway with full awareness of what it costs you. True sacrifice doesn't announce itself. It happens in silence, behind closed doors when no one's watching. It's the single mother working 2 jobs and never complaining because she's building a better life for her child. It's the young man who gives up his comfort, his city, his friends, to go serve something bigger than himself. It's the athlete who trains in the dark for years without applause, without reward, just because they believe in what they're becoming. You don't see it on social media. You feel it in the choices you make when there's nothing left but truth. Think about a time in your life where you had to let go of something precious. Maybe it was love. Maybe it was a career you thought you'd never leave. Maybe it was a version of yourself you weren't ready to bury. And yet something inside said, this is the price. And the pain that followed, that wasn't weakness. That was proof that it mattered. You can't fake that kind of ache. And that ache is where strength is born. See, people confuse sacrifice with loss, but they're not the same. Loss is when something is taken from you. Sacrifice is when you choose to let go for a greater cause. It's power, it's discipline, it's mastery, and most people don't want that kind of responsibility. They want shortcuts, they want comfort, but you don't grow in comfort. You grow in the fire. You grow in the moment you look at what you love and say, I'll give it up if that's what it takes. Not out of weakness, not out of fear, but out of purpose. And here's what most don't see. Real sacrifice is never wasted. Even if you don't get what you thought you would, even if the payoff doesn't come in the way you imagined, it shapes you. It burns away the ego, the entitlement, the excuses. It leaves you raw, but real, strong, but soft. It gives you a kind of clarity that comfort never could. Because once you've given everything, you stop being afraid of anything. The worst already happened, and you stood through it. You stood with blood on your hands, tears in your eyes, but a fire in your chest that said, I'm still here. Look at the greatest moments of transformation in anyone's story. It always comes after sacrifice. the musician who slept in his car for years before anyone knew his name, the single parent who said no to every temptation just to raise a better human, the warrior who left behind peace to fight for something sacred. None of them took the easy road. None of them held on too tight. They gave, they bled, they broke. And that's why they rose. Not because they were lucky, but because they were willing to pay the price that comfort never asks for. Because that's what it really means to sacrifice. It's not about losing. It's about choosing pain over pleasure, growth over ease, truth over comfort, purpose over preference, and doing it with your whole heart. The ripple effect is the part of the story nobody talks about, but it's the part that matters most. Because when you make a decision, especially one born out of faith, discipline, sacrifice, or pure heart, that decision doesn't just end with you. It echoes, it spreads, it moves through time and space in ways you can't even measure. The action you take in silence today might shape someone's courage 50 years from now, and the wild part, you may never even know it. That's how powerful integrity is. That's how powerful one honest moment can be. Most people live like their choices are isolated, like what they do only affects them, but it doesn't. Every time you show up when it's hard, every time you speak the truth when it costs you, every time you hold the line when everything's shaking, you're sending out a signal. You're showing someone somewhere that it's possible to stay grounded, and they might be watching, they might be inspired in that quiet, invisible way that changes the course of their whole path. Look around at the world we live in. It's filled with noise, with trends, with shortcuts. And in the middle of all that chaos, one solid person, one person who chooses integrity over attention, purpose over popularity, can be like a lightning strike. You don't need to go viral to start a ripple. You just need to be real, truly real. The kind of real that costs something. The kind of real that makes your hands shake, but your soul calm. Imagine a kid watching his father get up at 4 a.m. every day, grinding in silence, never complaining. That kid grows up believing that effort is normal, that showing up for your responsibilities is just what you do. Or imagine a woman leaving a toxic relationship with nothing but her name, rebuilding from the ground up, not because she had all the answers, but because she valued herself enough to walk. And years later, her daughter faces a similar storm, and she walks too. Not because someone told her to, but because she saw the ripple. She felt the echo of that courage. The man from this ancient story didn't act for fame. He wasn't trying to impress the world. He was ready to sacrifice everything for something beyond understanding. And that one act, it echoed through centuries. Not because it was loud, but because it was real. It whispered into the hearts of millions across generations and said, this is what devotion looks like. This is what it means to rise above self. And that whisper still hasn't stopped. That's the ripple. Even in your own life, think about the people who shaped you the most. It wasn't always the ones with the spotlight. Sometimes it was the quiet ones. The teacher who believed in you when you didn't believe in yourself, the stranger who showed kindness when you were having the worst day, the friend who stayed even when you tried to push them away. They might not know it, but they started a ripple, and you carry that ripple every time you pass on that same energy to someone else. Every strong decision you make is a stone thrown into the still water of time. The rings it creates go further than you can imagine, and that's why your choices matter, not just for you. For everyone who comes after you, for everyone who's watching you silently, for every person who needs proof that strength, love, faith, and discipline are still alive. Because you're not just living a life, you're casting ripples that could turn into waves, waves that could change someone's world, and it all begins with one brave moment. One choice to be better than your fear, one moment where you say, even if no one sees it, I'm doing it right. And someone somewhere years from now might feel that vibration and find the strength to do the same. And now you see it. This wasn't just a story about a man from the past. It was a mirror, a reflection of the tests we all face in silence. Every day you wake up, you're faced with choices that define you. Maybe they don't look dramatic, maybe there's no fire or thunder, but they are just as real, because the real battlefield is inside. It's that war between what's easy and what's right, between what's comfortable and what's purposeful. And most people never win that war because they never step into it. They avoid the discomfort. They run from the unknown. They settle for average and call it peace. but deep down something aches, because they know they were meant for more. You were not born to play small. You were not born to tiptoe through life, hoping to avoid pain. Pain will find you, struggle will find you, but greatness has to be earned. And it starts the moment you decide to stop negotiating with your fears, stop asking for permission to grow, stop waiting for the world to clap for you. Make your move without applause. Stand tall without validation. Act with purpose, even if no one understands. As the saying goes, the man who moves a mountain begins by carrying away small stones. And every time you choose discipline over comfort, truth over lies, action over hesitation, you move your mountain, brick by brick, breath by breath, step by step. Don't ever doubt the power of one honest choice. Don't ever underestimate what happens when you go all in, even when it hurts, because pain is temporary, but purpose is forever. Fear is loud, but it lies. Your calling may be quiet, but it speaks truth. And if you want to build a life that echoes, you have to be willing to walk through the silence, the storms, and the sacrifice. You'll never know how strong you are until being strong is the only choice you have. You'll never understand your own power until you're standing in the fire with everything to lose and you choose to rise anyway. Don't be afraid of that fire. Become it. Burn away everything that doesn't serve your soul. Become so focused, so grounded that nothing can shake you. Because a calm mind is stronger than any storm. A disciplined heart is louder than any doubt. And the one who walks with truth will always outlast the one who runs with fear. Remember, the people who changed the world were never the ones who waited. They were the ones who acted when it didn't make sense. They were the ones who let go when holding on felt safer. They were the ones who stood for something when the crowd knelt for nothing. And you, right now, have that same power. Not someday. Not when the timing is perfect now. Because now is all you ever had. And if not now, then when you want to be remembered, be the one who did it differently. Be the one who didn't quit when it got hard. Be the one who stayed loyal when no one was watching. Be the one who kept walking when the road disappeared. Be the one who made choices that echoed, that mattered, that inspired someone who may never know your name, but will feel your ripple. Because that's legacy, not noise, not fame, but truth, silent, powerful, unstoppable truth. As Nelson Mandela once said, it always seems impossible until it's done. And the ones who do it, they don't wait for signs. They become the sign. They don't wait for the light. They become the spark. And you are the spark. You are the voice. You are the storm. And your next step could change everything. So take it with fire in your eyes, with purpose in your breath, with peace in your chest, because this world doesn't need more noise. It needs more people who are willing to live a truth so loud it echoes through eternity.